coming from the global level to the level where I think the real changes or development is happening, coming down to the local level. Now in the next 1.5 hours, you will be listening to my voice telling or sharing some of the experiences which I had prior to my UNDP career on working on the local development strategies and working on the local level to have some systemic approach to managing particular geographic locality. Why or how does this relate to Millennium Development Goals? I was telling that there is this various understanding of what the MDGs are about. And one of these understanding is about this complex approach, even though some of you may not share this opinion with me. You rather say that you cannot do all those things at the same time. You have to tell that you do this thing first, that thing after that. The MDG is about that you need to look at development from various angles, not only from one angle. In the 90s, when we were speaking about local and regional development, the emphasis was put on economic development. If you look at the strategies or papers on local development, it would have always this E between L and C, so it would be local economic development, regional economic development. But with the time, this emphasis on just economic side of development has changed, and MDGs, I don't know whether it could be attributed to the MDGs completely, but MDGs also stress the importance of looking at some other areas, not only on economic development. MDGs, they emphasize human development rather than economic development. And for the local development planning, for the local development as such, the main objective is to improve the quality of life of people who are living in that particular municipality. The slides which I will be showing you are presenting one of the approaches to local development, to managing locality through the local development planning. This is an example from Slovakia, the country where I am coming from working on a number of local development plans in municipalities, actually in cities in Slovakia. Plus, it will also provide some overview based on looking at these local development plans in a number of Central and Western European cities. Local development strategy is a key planning document for development at local level. It is not a wish list of actions which the people who are living in that particular territory would like to have done. Rather, it is quite a good tool for mobilizing the internal development potential. There are many theories about exogenous and endogenous potentials and their use for development. But one conclusion is that unless you utilize what you have in your territory, you will not achieve sustainable development of your territory as such. Relying just on the potentials or the inputs which are coming from outside of your area, outside of your territory, doesn't bring any sustainable results when it comes to development in the territory. That's why this local development strategy should mobilize this internal development potential. And if these local development strategies are being done correctly, they really serve this purpose well. Local development strategy identifies critical development areas and proposes alternative solutions. Alternative solutions is very important to have in mind, that it doesn't provide just one solution, or it shouldn't provide just one solution. In the process of preparing the local development strategy, number of solutions should be identified to each of the problem area, and then the selection of the solution should be weighted vis-a-vis its or based on the costs and effectiveness of that particular solution. But the last sentence for this slide is pretty obvious, that without implementation of the local development strategy, the value of this document would be worth just of the paper that you can put into the recycling company. So the implementation is a key part of the entire strategic planning process. When looking at the municipalities and cities which have some local development strategies or which prepared the local development strategies in the 90s and beginning of 2000 of the new millennium, there are several reasons why they decided to have local development strategy. Some of them decided to have it because there was this need coming from the change of international situation. They wanted to compete with some other cities. This was a competency which was delegated or transferred to them within the process of decentralization. They found the local development strategy as a good instrument to fight against the time and deterioration of the situation in their locality. They found it as a good tool to address successfully new challenges, but also as a tool to better understand the locality. Even though elected representatives in municipalities usually think that they know their place very well. They have a number of meetings, and the people who elected them are the best proof that the elected people, the elected representatives know the locality, but this is not always true, or the knowledge of the locality is very subjective. Other municipalities decided to have local development plans to promote new quality of development and life. They, through local development plan, they hoped to increase effectiveness in management of the municipality. With this particular reason is very applicable in time of these austerity measures in a number of countries across Europe. Some of the municipalities decided to have it so that they can define smaller number of key development targets, and as some decided to have it so that they have better or more involve also the population of that particular locality in decision-making process at the local level. So as I said, I will be presenting example of local development strategies in Slovakia. And what we were addressing in these local development strategies were a number of thematic areas, starting from local economy, infrastructure, both hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure, financial management of municipality, local government, environmental issues. Those are the issues of the image of municipality. And you see the links to individual Millennium Development Goals. And the main objective of addressing or looking at these areas, these thematic areas, was to improve the quality of life of people in that particular locality. So it was not to look at the local governments, in particular municipality, just so that we please the mayor and the municipal office, but the objective was so that the people who are living in that particular municipality have or are getting all those services that they would like to get from the municipality. To address these issues in those thematic areas, it was necessary to work in partnerships and cooperation with various stakeholders. I will be speaking about it a little bit later. And to have also to achieve the cohesion of communities so that all the community feels to be involved in decision-making processes. What was addressed, or what kind of measures or problems were addressed in individual areas? I will now provide some of the examples in the area of environment. The strategies were dealing with environmental management, ecologically balanced economic activities, how to balance the economic interests vis-a-vis the environmental characteristics of locality. Shall we locate, I know, some heavy industry production in the tourist center or in the municipality, in the city, which has very nice nature? There were obvious economic interests of the investors who wanted to benefit from that plant, but at the same time it would ruin this clean environment and nature landscape of the city. So how to balance this economic interest and ecologic characteristics. In the area of local government, the strategy was addressing the issues such as structure of the office, the quality of service delivery, how to involve the citizens into participation into decision-making powers. In the boxes you always have some extract from or a real example from the local development strategy for selected cities. So in the area of local government, we were looking at these areas. When it comes to financial management, in various countries, the system of local governments financing is a little bit different. But in Slovakia, there is a condition that local self-governments must have balanced performance, so the expenditures cannot exceed the revenues of local budgets. And they have several competencies when it comes to taxes, local taxes and fees. And you can use, and they could use it for promoting the investments, economic, ecological investments in the locality. But they could also, they have to be very careful when supporting the, some social services, so that their expenditures do not go too high and exceed their revenues. In the area of infrastructure, the local development strategy was addressing both technical infrastructure, mainly it was roads, sewage system, water, gas pipelines, but also social infrastructure, the healthcare facilities, social services, schools, and education, housing, and also security. When it comes to local economy, even though the municipalities in Slovakia do not have big powers when it comes to stimulation of economy, in their locality they still could do some activities related to the economic basis in their territory, with the aim to attract new investors, to ease the situation or the operation of existing entrepreneurs, but also to involve the entrepreneurs, the businesses into social services provision, playing on corporate social responsibility and playing on or using these economic units for the benefit of wider population in the locality. And as I said, the local development strategy was addressing unusual area, the area of image of the city, or the image of the municipality. Simply because although municipalities are in the competitive environment, the municipalities in Slovakia are competing among each other to attract the population to settle there, because the financing goes by the number of population in the particular municipality. But they are also competing among themselves when attracting some investors. So this area of image and promotion, public relations was also very important to be addressed. In each of those thematic areas, the local development strategy was going through a standard policy cycle. Preparation of the action plans in each area was going through a standard policy cycle, where at the beginning you need to define the problem, you need to diagnose the causes, propose the solution to overcome those problems, and then you need to decide which of the solutions you take, you implement that particular solution, and you look whether that solution has brought the expected result or not through monitoring and evaluation. If it didn't bring expected result, you need to go again through entire policy cycle and try to find such solution which brings the expected results. How do you define the problem? You look at the data information which you have on that particular locality, on that particular thematic area. You do the situation analysis, and you identify through the situation analysis some problems. Once you have the problems, you basically analyze the causes, look at the strengths and weaknesses of the locality, the barriers which are preventing the problems to be addressed, and contrary, the things which could be supportive when addressing the problem. Once you have defined the solutions, you are looking at whether the cost of that particular solution is not bigger than the benefit of that particular solution, and then you decide for those solutions where the costs are lower than the benefits. Decisions on which of the solutions are to be persuaded further in implementation of the local development strategy. In case of Slovakia, it needs to be approved by the local or regional government, by the municipal council, who then also oversees the implementation of the local development strategy. The monitoring and evaluation of approved program done both internally and externally is very helpful and needed so that we can learn from the mistakes and promote what has worked. And here I emphasize the difference between monitoring and evaluation, because usually M&E, monitoring and evaluation, is used with one breath without understanding the difference, something similar like data and indicators. And monitoring is that we are looking at delivery, whether if we have a set of actions which need to be done, which are defined in the action plan. Monitoring means that we are just ticking whether that particular measure, that particular activity was done or not, or we are stating where, how far in the implementation of that particular activity we are. Evaluation means that we are looking at the results of that particular activity. What changed implementation of that particular activity has brought, and what change it didn't bring. So the difference between, there is a big difference between monitoring and evaluation, and for both we are using different methods. This there are several steps in preparing the local development strategy. This pre-analysis, or when I mentioned that there was the situation analysis as a starting point for defining the problem, you look at the available statistical data. At the local level, usually there is not that many statistical data collected, because statistical systems, I think, start from the level of, I don't know, districts or micro-regions. But for local development strategy, it is important to have as many statistics as possible at the local level. You do the consultations with the key citizens or with influential citizens. This could be not only the mayor, but also the entrepreneurs, priests, medical doctors, NGO representatives, or teachers from the school. Then you somehow create a body which would oversee the entire process of preparing local development strategy. This body would consist of people from various, I don't want to use the word stakeholders, but okay, from different areas of life in that particular locality, people from education sector, from health, from representative, I don't know, of elderly, of youth, of city government, state government, entrepreneurs, and so on. After collecting this information on the statistics available, you also look or ask the citizens, the entrepreneurs, about what they think are the problems, what they think should be the focus of local development strategy through the survey, public opinion poll. And when through this situation analysis and surveys you identify the problems, you go through the this SWOT analysis and benefit analysis. What is very important to have this transparency and openness of entire process when working on the local development strategy. So after each of the steps, you should do quite broad consultations and publishing for the public, so that there is no doubt that something is cooked under the lid secretly. After we have these consultations done, we prepare some draft development strategy, discuss the strategy in the committee, in the local self-government, in the public presentation, and are ready for preparing the implementation of individual sections of the strategy. So far, I think it was not that clear where all this directs, but local development strategy basically then as an output should consist of these points, and in each of the priority areas, these are those local government, funding, finance, environment, and so on. In each of these areas, we define the goals, the set of activities which are leading towards achievement of the goal, with defining what we want to achieve, who will do it, who will cooperate, how much will it cost, what sources of funding to use, and what is the time frame. This is very clearly, at least for me, linked to Millennium Development Goals, where we also define the goals, what we want to achieve. We define what we want to achieve, using which indicator, and define the time frame. The MDGs do not define who should do the work. Okay, it is assumed in MDGs automatically that it should be the government, but it is wrong. It shouldn't be just the governments to work towards the MDGs, but it should be also all the population. Not very often there is how much will it cost to achieve that progress in the MDG report, but in the local development strategy it should be included so that the municipality could do proper financial planning. The strategy.
Maybe I just misunderstood, but who is preparing the strategy?
The city, the municipality.
The municipality, yes, because then you said something about discussing the strategy with local government, self-government, and so on. So that's why I just. So actually, that's the municipality, yes.
The municipality, but there is.
It's actually the mayor and the.
Municipality should be the leader of the entire process. The strategy, as the paper, requires also some expert inputs and some consultations. And these consultations is including the mayor and because there is this expert team, the mayor and the deputies of the local council. They might not be experts in those areas. They were just elected by the people. So they are popular, but they might not be the experts in those particular areas.
But
so you have
need to be behind all
yes,
the
yes,
so, and
yes.
Be involved.
And the strategy itself should be approved by the local self-government as such. In case of Slovakia, it is that it must be approved by the city council, by the deputies of the city council, because the mayor's approval is not sufficient for having it as a binding document. The strategy should have also these elements, how it would be implemented, and how it would be monitored, and how it would be evaluated. And something how this strategy, entire chain of the strategy would look like. We have the strategic plan for increasing the quality of public policies, where one of the issues or areas that needs to be addressed was housing, and what the municipality, in this case it is city of Levoča, want to achieve in this particular area is to create conditions for housing construction reflecting the needs and requests from the citizens. How they will address it? They will prepare some city housing policy, and these are the steps which would lead to achieving or to implementing this measure to prepare city housing policy. Here we have defined what are the tasks so that they can prepare this city housing policy. Who is the guarantor, who is the leader in the city of Levoča. Here we have who is cooperating in preparing these tasks, how much it costs for human resources, capital costs, total costs, from where the money comes from, and until when it should be done. And this kind of chains you should create for any of those thematic areas. Now coming to your question. So who is preparing the strategy? The strategy is prepared by the city, but it has some, it should have also some institutional structure. There is this steering structure which is consisting of representatives of various stakeholders, and it is to oversee entire work. Because if you want to assure the sustainability of the strategy, that it doesn't, that it is not just destroyed and thrown into the trash can when the new local self-government comes, you need to have a broad constituency in this steering structure. Then you have this executive structure, and it is the experts who are working, who are experts in these individual areas of the strategy, and they are preparing these experts' inputs that are to be discussed and approved in the process. Usually this process, this expert part is supported also by external consultants who might not have the best knowledge of the locality, but who might have this technical expertise in individual areas covered by the strategy. And they are working together with the people who know the locality and have some knowledge of these expert areas. Where all the efforts with local development planning can be wasted. Local development planning doesn't lead anywhere if it doesn't have political support of the management, of the municipality. So if the local development strategy was prepared just by some bunch of experts from outside, or just by some NGOs who are working, operating in that particular municipality, but without support from the municipality leadership, the mayor, the city council, it doesn't lead to any sustainable results. So that's why I said that this local development strategy should be prepared by the municipality under the leadership of the municipality management, mayor, the city council. But since they do not have this technical expertise always, okay, there are some exceptions when the mayor or the people, the deputies in the local council are experts, not only popular persons. They have to cooperate with some groups of experts. But these experts shouldn't come only from outside of the locality, but there should be also these internal teams. All the preparatory works, all the steps should be consulted with broad constituency, so that if the political representation of the municipality changes, the strategy itself doesn't change the overall direction. Maybe it could change, the new political representation could change a little bit the priority or sequencing of individual activities, but the overall direction of the strategy should not change. It is very important to communicate both with the representatives of major stakeholders, but also with the population of the citizens of the city. And it is very important to link the measures which are proposed in the strategy with the funding, either from the municipal budget or from other sources of funding. So what are the key principles of preparing and implementation of local strategy? There needs to be cooperation between public and private sectors. If we are saying that local development that we are preparing and implementing local development strategy, it doesn't mean that it is just the municipality, the local self-government, which is responsible for preparing it and for implementing it. It should be done in partnership with other stakeholders. The main objective of planning is its implementation, not to have the document itself. But for successful implementation, you need to have this political will, the agreement of an engagement of various stakeholders, and you need to have link to funding. Unless there is funding behind all those measures, you will not implement anything. The strategy should have a long-term perspective, 15-20 years, but also some short and medium-term milestones or points which you can somehow report vis-a-vis in a shorter term. It should have a complex focus, but not complex doesn't mean complete. So the strategy does not address all the areas possible, all the wishes, but it should not put any of themes in front of others. So this is more important, that is less important. No, complex means that you need to treat them as equal areas. You need to be able to define the priority. So the solutions are strictly selected. You are selecting just those solutions which are bringing more benefits than they cost. The strategy, local development strategy, should focus on using the internal resources, not relying on funding resources coming from outside. And monitoring and evaluation should be an integral part of the entire policy process. We shouldn't forget about this monitoring and evaluation, and this is not only about the local development strategy, but about any policy design or program design, project design. You always have to have in mind when you are designing the program, project, strategy, whatever, how will you be monitoring and evaluating whether this particular initiative has done anything or not. This monitoring, as I said, it is regular monitoring is regular looking at the progress in fulfillment of the strategy. So where did we go? In this case, we have, this is from the strategy, this first part, where we are saying what we want to achieve in this, we are addressing this area of internal image. What kind of outputs are we expecting? Who is responsible? Who is cooperating? Where the money comes from? And this bottom 4 lines is monitoring report on implementation of this particular measure. Project sheet was updated, activities of the project are reflected in the time plan, and so on. So it is just the description of the progress in fulfillment of particular measures. Evaluation, as I said, is looking at whether there was any there were any changes done, or whether the results which were achieved were those which we expected to be done. So at the time when we have the strategy prepared, we need to also define how are we going to evaluate whether the implementation of strategy made any change or not. In case of MDGs, we have defined this set of indicators and the targets which should be used for assessing whether something was changed or not. In case of these local development strategies, you can select the indicators and define how are they contributing to achieving this objective, this quality of life in that particular locality. That would be it about the local development strategy, the experiences from Slovakia. My question to you is whether you have participated in some local development strategy preparation, whether in the country from where you are coming, these local development strategies, whether the municipalities, the cities are preparing local development strategies, whether they are transforming, I know, MDGs into local MDG reports, whether they are transforming or preparing some kind of municipal plans for development based on some national development strategy.
Okay, in Russia we have our national MDGs, and but for the local level it was not implemented. So it's like at a national level according to existing national statistics. But as you know, Russia consists of 83 sub-regions and all of them are different. So it means that you cannot apply MDG for all these different regions. And on the local level, we have a document that calls social and economic development. So it means that it not covers all the phases of development. And as far as I know, document was implied from 2008, and majority of the regions, and it is till to 25. I mean, it is for.
But it is at the level of these regions.
Of the regions, yes. And when it was, at least I know, prepared. I know who prepared, let's say, in my region. There were no participation with local citizens, nothing like that. And even in the document itself, it was not mentioned any of these like ideas, what you just have mentioned. At least no locals. I mean, it was not even included the opinions or what should be done and so on.
There is a difference if these development documents are being prepared in the centralized, in the countries where the public administration is using this centralized model, or in the countries where the public administration uses more decentralized system. In
yeah,
the
but
case,
it was not from the top that we could say to prepare this strategy. It was a sort of recommendation that all the regions should prepare the strategy of development. But in fact, this document was prepared by the head of the university who has really good background in the development issues and so on. But it seems that there is nothing to do with what you said. It's just two different directions.
Yeah.
Well, in India, we have the Planning Commission, which forms the documents. And recently is our 12th five-year plan. The document states the whole of the development procedures and processes that will be taking place in the 5 years. And it has, in the very beginning, it takes into cognizance the goals and objectives of the Millennium Development Goal. After this, then we have our countries divided into states. So the states, each state have their own development planning. But it is in line with the national development planning. So that is how it tries to mix it up. Now it depends on politicians and the administrators of those particular states as to what kind of approach they take and form those state documents.
And do you go in India also below the level of states? To whether with this planning you go below the level of states? So I don't know, to level of regions or even cities.
See, all the officials have to submit their reports. These officials also work at the local level. So when the plan is formed, you have to, before that, the annual budget and everything is being allocated, you have to send what you want or what development goals and agendas, what your region require. So if these local, if these officials at the ground level are in touch, constant touch with the local people through NGOs, through other ways, they would take forward their request in the plans, which would further go ahead. So that depends, I personally feel that depends on the individual and the official as to how he or she carries forward the process.
There are some in the very back.
Yeah. Okay. From my own experiences, from what is going on in Nigeria, usually for the local documents or strategies, people usually come from the national down to the local. And even at the local, we're just maybe giving 2 or 3 days notice about these meetings, and we attend. And we've given loads and loads of documents. We have contribution of the CSOs are invited, but usually the wrong ones with the wrong competencies. So most of the time, people are eating and drinking while those discussions are going on because you have no idea, no clue as to where you have to contribute. And usually, our own experience right now, and it's becoming much more rampant, is that these donors and people from the national governments come down with an already written report and communicate. So at the end of the day, you'll be in a meeting and there is already prepared communique at the end of the meeting. And it keeps on going on and off. That even for us that usually oppose things that come like that, when they are sending out invitations for discussions at local level, we are usually targeted out so that we don't attend those meetings. That is where, that is the experience we have in Nigeria right now.
I come from Armenia. We have very fragmented system of local government. We have too much communities for a very small country. And by law, each community, each municipality needs to have its 4-year development program, and they have, but actually these programs not always work. And as for strategic planning, only big communities can afford to have this strategic development program, such as for example, capital Yerevan has its strategic development plans for 10 years and short-term and mid-term programs also. And what I also would like to add that recently, with the assistance of European Council, there was prepared a document, a methodology for strategic development, and in some pilot communities were prepared strategic development plans for 10 years, from 2012 to 2022. And let's hope that
But was that including the public consultations? With the involvement of the citizens?
Yes, yes, it's done as you were telling. It's done with under the municipal council and mayor are also participating, but the assistance and the initiative comes from outside.
Yep.
Actually, I'm from Poland, so I think we have a very similar solution because it's also within European Union, each village or each town should have their own strategy for development. So actually, since we are a member of European Union, we have this kind of strategies. But I want to say something different because, I think it can be quite useful when we can force actually the officials, the local governments, to have this kind of strategy. Because what we did, for example, my organization, It was a few years ago that, and especially it can work on the very local level, especially in the village level. After the election, if there are elections at the local level, we just invite the officials who won the election. Then we invite the people from this little town or actually village, and we did some meeting with them, and then we signed what kind of promise they did during the election, during the campaign. And then we made some agreements between the society and the mayor of the city. After 2 years, we did another meeting, and we asked point by point what did they do according to the promises. And then in front of the quite huge group, because people were really interested in this discussion, so it wasn't like 5 people there, but like 100 or something like that, or even more. They had to explain what did they do, why did they do this or that, and so on, and what they are going to do in next year. Unfortunately, after 2 years, because I was the person who actually coordinated the discussion between the mayor and the villagers, because my organization actually monitored this project, so we were not involved, we were like outsider. Unfortunately, I left. I'm not sure if the mayor was chosen in the next election or not. But we could see that after 2 years, for example, at the beginning they promised to build some road, and after 2 years the road was almost finished. But then they also promised to do something with security, and they didn't do nothing. So it was quite interesting to see it. And actually this kind of development agenda was provoked by by NGOs, local NGOs, at the very local level. So I think it can be quite helpful as a solution.
Sorry, Kasia, does every village in Poland have its local development strategy?
Yes, but I don't really believe that we but it's like, I think they don't really involve the society into discussion. For example, I work in the city of Katowice, which have really nice cooperation with civil society. And for example, if they want to discuss something about education or cooperation with NGOs, they call to our civil society organization and they ask, oh, shall we meet and discuss this and this, because we're planning to do something. So it's really fantastic cooperation between our organization, for example, as a civil society organization, and local government. But we work on that for last 7 years, yes, to get this high level of cooperation. But then I live in another city, which the situation is totally different. There is no cooperation with the NGOs, the mayor does whatever he likes, and it's just, the situation is totally different. So it depends how strong is the civil society within the specific actually cities, and how do they monitor and control the local government. Yeah.
This was a very good question, whether all the municipalities have to have it, and what is the quality of it.
But I think it's like...
If the structural funds
I think if you want to get
used,
some funds,
there needs to be proof that your particular project with which you are applying for this funding is in line with some local development plan or with the municipal development plan.
Yes, we have even national strategy as development strategy, and within the first sentence is written, because European Union asked us to do it, we prepared it. But in the Polish version, not in the
I have to tell that these strategies which I was presenting, we did before we joined the European Union. I was working for the NGO as well, and actually we were trying to convince the municipalities that it is beneficial for them to have this kind of systemic, strategic approach to managing their territory. And we were doing it in a complicated way. It took maybe 1 year and something to finalize all this process. And once we joined the European Union, there was this condition that each municipality has to have some kind of local development plan. So the Ministry for Regional Development prepared a guidance how to prepare local development. Actually, it is called Program of Social and Economic Development of Municipality. Now, these documents, they were prepared by, in many cases, in most of the cases, by consulting companies, just copy and paste the same stuff. in some cases even without checking whether they changed the name of the city. So the value of those documents is high because if they apply, if somebody is applying with the project, they find themselves in those local program documents and they can get the money. But the real value of those documents is almost zero because they do not reflect these needs and this involvement of the citizens into deciding what we want to achieve. And this was the main objective of what I wanted to tell with the presentation, that there is local development planning and local development done one way, not that much sustainable without the involvement of broad stakeholders basis, without consultations, transparency and so on. And there is another way of preparing these local development plans which you can prepare very quickly to satisfy just some technocratic requirements, but the sustainability of such document and of such development is under question. You wanted to say, and then.
Yeah, I'm coming from Lithuania, and since our independence in 1991, we have this structure like national level, regional, and then municipality, and then it goes to some small events. So when these plans were starting to get like that we have to have them and supposed to have, they started to, at national level, they started to make these plans. But honestly speaking, if somebody more in-depth look in these plans even today, they are basically Lithuanian version of English document from European Union, World Bank, and just literal translation sometimes, and not really choosing what are priorities in our countries and what are the main issues to address in our country rather than which is worldwide. This is one point, but. In a way, regional levels had their own chances how they transform this. So then, as Barbara mentioned, it very much depends on local officials, how they address and how they really implement that, and how that plan, they make some regional document and then they really follow by it. And from end of 2010, regional level disappeared from our administrative unit. And the rationale behind was to, improve this localization of all the goals, all the strategies that from national level goes to municipalities. So it means the bureaucratic apparatus was reduced in a way, and the local municipal authorities had got the chance really to address the very local and localized needs. And then again, it was in these couple of years of results, let's say, we can see that those really used that freedom to address, and some municipalities just streamed up ahead than others, although they were a bit lagging behind some years ago, but some they just went down, and then inequality between municipalities, now not even the regions but municipalities increase very much significantly. So it's a lot of political will involved.
I just want to join in the bigger discussion that I think it was very important what you said. Under key principles, the focus on internal resources, and I think these EU funds could not be considered as internal resources. And I think that is a very important point, because if you, for example, in my country, Hungary, the development budget is considered to be the own resources for the EU funds to complement. And I think it's really the wrong approach. You should really have these plans first, and then look at what kind of funds or other resources can be put together. And also the result is that in Hungary, the private-public sector partnership is hardly exists.
Or the private sector is seen as an enemy of the public sector. Yes, the structural funds, I have a very similar opinion about EU structural funds that they became the key driver of any changes, even though they were supposed to be just the complementary sources to national resources. And the preparation of these local development strategies in Slovakia really started just when we entered the EU and started to use the structural funds. The structural funds, they are also corrupting the civil society in individual countries, because now in Slovakia no NGO is willing to raise their voice critically vis-a-vis the government, because they are depending on the funding from structural funds which goes to the government.
But then, for example, my organization decided not to take money from our municipality, just to be free. Yes. So we took some resources from other resources, like I don't know, that was the Norwegian's funds. Now there are Switzerland's funds, and so on. We try to provide extra, but without having anything from our own municipality.
You want to?
I just wanted to add that what you would explain, I really liked it, but I think that the whole process lacks on the which is corruption. And in Hungary, unfortunately, the whole process has this corruption. And I wanted to ask you if how is it in Slovakia, and how can you try to fight against it?
Well, it is true that unless you come to the municipality where you have a smart person in the leadership, you cannot do much, including this fight against the corruption. Addressing the issue of corruption and nepotism in the process of this local development planning was done through this public consultation and openness of entire process to a very broad constituency of stakeholders. This is the only way how you can address the issue of corruption, because but it requires to have really a smart person as the mayor or the city council. If you have the biggest corrupt or the most corrupted person in the municipality is the mayor, then you might have big problems if going through the process which I just described. Yes? Yes, actually when I was speaking about the local development strategy, similar things could be applied for the regional development strategy for the regional level. Depends on the geographic scale. It is very important, as you are saying, to have these, that the local development strategies should not go in so diverse directions to diverse from the direction of the national development strategy. Ideal would be to have also some intermediary level between the national level and the local level, so that this coordination of the local level strategies is assured, what you are mentioning. But in some of the countries, there is no regional level of public administration, and in that case, it could be, or the national governments could promote the regional cooperation of municipalities, so that they create some micro-region or regional development plans, even if the public administration structure does not have this regional level. And this is also the case in Slovakia, even though we have also the regional self-government, but the municipalities are creating some, we call it micro-regions, several municipalities together, and they are coordinating their planning activities so that they do not somehow push out the other because of some activities which are done in their levels.
Sorry.
First here,
okay.
And then you.
Okay, I have a question also about the whole process of creating this and development strategy. There seems to be a big gap between defining some problem or problems and finalizing the strategy. So probably during this this time gap, the problems might change, or somehow new problems may arise. Something can be already be solved, right? And where is the part in this strategy where the program actually received some revision for these changing circumstances? Because there might be a risk of mismatch between the strategy and the circumstances.
The preparation of the strategy is not like a closed process that you prepare the document and then you just implement it and that's it. You cannot change anything in the strategy. Actually, once you implement some of the measures, you need to look at whether they had the results which you expected to have. If they didn't have, or if new problems arise in the locality, you need to reflect it in the strategy itself. You need to make these corrective measures. That's why you have this implementation structure, which is basically usually this steering committee, which was also established during the preparation of strategy. They are also active during the implementation. And even during the implementation, all this process of public consultations and checking whether it works or not is going on. So preparing the document itself is not the end. Okay, this is just the beginning. And it can be changed. It is not set in stone. Yes?
Before Elena looks into her crystal balls tomorrow, I need a sincere answer from you. Are you optimistic that things are going to get better in the future or going to grow worse?
You know, this is
apart from how.
Okay, this is the wrong question because I'm optimistic. so I try to look at the things from the positive side always. So. We had here, then there, and you. So.
Yeah, perhaps I missed something, but I was curious if one of these strategies fails horribly. Who's accountable for who? All the stakeholders, are we accountable to the people, of course, but who cares? I mean,
the citizens, they express their evaluation of whether something was changed or not.
But sometimes it's not working like that, like sometimes there's no voice.
In those
fully failed strategy.
No.
Okay.
I had this. It came to my mind when I was listening to some of you that there was this accountability. You were saying about this accountability of what they were promising in the election campaign. This local development strategy is not only an instrument to mobilize the internal resources, but also can serve as this accountability tool that if we have in the strategy written that we want to achieve this and this, then the people, the citizens, anybody, any ordinary person can come to the municipality, to the mayor, and telling, look, in the strategy you have written that you will do this and this. Why didn't you do that? The mayor can tell, well, we did, and this is just one person. He doesn't need to care, or she doesn't need to care. But then the elections are the best litmus paper to see the satisfaction of the citizens. There is no other enforcing mechanism. There is no enforcing mechanism for implementation of the strategy, for punishments for the success or failure of the strategy, other than election, re-election. It's the same like with the MDGs. It is just this stick and shame.
So it's not very applicable to the big parts of our region.
It is.
The accountability is through elections.
I said that the local development strategy could be used also for the accountability purposes, but it could be used for the mobilizing of these internal resources, for involvement, even in centralized dictatorship, how to keep the people calm, give them some small hints to participate.
Subsidies.
Not subsidies. to give them the voice that they are being heard, they are involved in the process, so they are happy that they've been listened to.
But that's what causes what's the word? Disillusionment, because let's say you're heard first, and then
they don't care at
Yes,
all
but then in
about
the,
what
in
it
the
says.
centralized system, the government at the center can change the person who is responsible for that particular municipality, and then all the blame and shame goes on that one person who was replaced, and now there is new person, and they will do better.
But actually what happens is just, okay, sometimes they replace the person. But then after some while, and sometimes not that long while, in like few months, then it was a conflict of interest and somebody didn't like somebody, so they just kick him or her out, and then we'll continue our work doing. And it happened in several actually lagging behind regions in my country, that somebody didn't share the cake equally and somebody was unhappy over the share he or she got. And it was, but everything, and if some person is more innovative and want to really contribute, they just, sometimes they just, from the top, push them down.
Yes, I just want to add a point that local development, as you said, is very critical in attaining a balanced growth. But she asked a question whether it is going to happen or what does the future look like. I think that is a problem in the sense that yesterday, on Saturday, when we visited the communities, I was able to see that the status of development in the rural areas here compared to where I come from is totally different. The lesson I learned is that, and you stress on that point, infrastructure is very important. I could see that people were living in those communities because they have power, they have good roads, and so on. Elsewhere, it's not like that. You are just in the bush, there's not even good drinking water. It's not there. So that is not motivating people to live in the rural areas and embark on local economic development. And the dangerous thing is this: the prescription of these policies in the rural areas is sometimes very, very bad. I want to give you a very practical example. This microfinance then is seen as one way by which rural people can come out from poverty. I once asked my mother to contract a loan for me because I didn't want to go directly to do that. The message we get from them is that the loans do not help them. You give them the loans to go into petty businesses, but at the end of the day, it does not help them. So I wanted to test it myself. So I asked my mother to sign for the loan for me. And believe you me, it was a killer loan.
Yeah.
Very, very killer.
The conditions are
the conditions, the interest. I just do not think that the rural woman can take a loan, work and make profit and be able to pay. I was paying the loan with tears. Even though I earned salary, the money that I took and invested, there was no returns at all. So you can just imagine, people go in for that with the hope that they can come out from poverty. But in reality, it's not helping them. And that is one of the biggest strategies that the government is using in my country to help even alleviate the poverty situation. So for me, if there is going to be hope at all in the future, we must try to address the felt needs of people. What exactly do they want? That is what we should be addressing. But you find that politics, politicians will just go there because we have about 210 districts in Ghana. And all these things come December 2012 when we have elections and there's a change in government. All of them will go. And then a new set of 210 local, we call them district representatives, will come. When there is another change, they all go. So this kind of discontinuity in even the leadership situation It's another source.
But if the people would be satisfied, there wouldn't be changes after each elections. No?
Whether you are satisfied or no, one there's a change in government. Everybody.
Expiration of tenure.
Because you don't belong to that party. So when your party is not in power, you must move. That is one. So the leadership or the institutional aspect of the local development is another source of work. So for me, the future looks so brisk. I mean, you cannot tell, especially where I come from. You cannot just, you don't know, you are just existing, yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps the things which I was telling are not that much relevant for you, but at least one message, and I saw it also in what you said, that these policies should reflect what the people want and are able actually need. And this was also the message that behind this block development strategy process, to have the people participating in deciding the priorities. The same also, so at least this portion of what I was saying is applicable also in your countries.
So I guess the strategies are here to bridge the gap between the people and the government.
Yes, would be a tool
to bridge the gap.
Yeah, my question is much less complicated than discussed until now, I would say, but and maybe it is worth to be asked. Anyway, I would like you to elaborate a bit more on steering committees, because since a bit time on, I've been participating to this kind of steering committees, and they do very different things, ranging from just validating decisions that others make to selecting policies and whatever. So I would like to understand, how did it work in your case? What did the steering committee do in that case? What they were in charge of, actually? Because overseeing can be anything, okay? So just this.
Well, you have to imagine it as a debate club. Because we had club for the debates, because we had these thematic working groups on individual topics where people also from the steering committee were participating. So some of them were more involved into preparing this strategy part on environment, some on infrastructure, some on social affairs and so on. And then in the steering committee meeting, we had these people to present the suggestions, the results from the working groups to other peer members of the steering committee. And basically, the decisions of the steering committee were usually taken as a compromise solution. Not voting and majority overruling the minority, but compromise and achievement of consensus is also a very important element of the strategy.
Okay, so if the executive committee, so who decide actually? Who is in charge of deciding? The municipality?
At the end, the strategy, so that it has some relevance and level of commitment, must be approved by the municipal council.
Okay.
But the councillor, the deputies of the municipal council are elected representatives, and they are not full-time deputies. So they have their own jobs. They could be working in private business, in school, in other. So including these deputies in the steering committee as well assures that at the end the document would be approved by the municipal council as well. I think this is quite important to mention, that these deputies are not full-time deputies. That it's just their elected function, for which they get only just very small reward included. So they are representing various interests in the municipality, and having this interest represented in the steering committee for preparing an implementation of the local strategy is very helpful then in having the strategy approved. But the document itself, before it gets to approval in this municipal council, is the result of consensus and these compromises, trying to find the compromises between various interests. So that's why I said that it is more or less a debate club, because you really need to just talk and talk so that you reach this consensus.
We can take another 2 questions.
We've seen some examples where the local government and the leaders of the citizens, they just couldn't cooperate at all. Because we've seen the leaders of 2 social enterprises, and most of them said that, oh no, we just can't work with the municipal. But on the other hand, in this way, their opinion and what they would really like to have and what they would need is just won't be really in the development strategy or in the strategy of these places. And what I think it's a huge problem, because exactly in these areas the poverty is huge, and exactly in these areas these people's opinion should be involved. But because of the lack of cooperation and because of ethnic conflict, it just doesn't work. How is it in Slovakia? Do you have good examples for this?
In these 3 cases which I was presenting, there was this agreement of various stakeholders on the document. That's why they have the document. We have also municipalities where the mayors really do not care about certain populations in their territory, namely Roma, because there is sufficient electorate to elect them in the next local elections coming from the majority population. But in those localities where there is sufficient pressure from the local citizens, even if the mayor is rude racist, he or she is reflecting on the needs of Roma, but there needs to be this pressure expressed either as the constituency in the elections or expressed through naming and shaming publicly vis-a-vis other municipalities. But this is, somebody here said that, very much depending on the personality of the leadership of the mayor, and this is very true.
What if they are shameless?
But then I think Slovakia has very interesting cases with community organizing, especially in Bańska Bystrica or something like that. I don't know if you've heard.
Well, there are.
So actually, it can be quite, because when one person goes to the mayor, yes, one person.
It is not. But if you go as a group of organizations, then
he must. Yeah.
Yes.
He will know.
Yes. And you want to?
Yeah, but first my colleague.
I wanted to add something to your answer related to the question of conflict.
Can you add a bit louder?
I want to add something to your answer related to the complete failure of the local development strategy and responsibilities there. From my experience, the process of implementation of the local strategy is not a static process. It's a very dynamic process, which means that things that are written in paper can change later on with certain determined regulations of the process. You have a strong monitoring process, you have a regular basis of data, and then you review the progress of the implementation of the strategy on a regular basis. You present them to a steering committee, and later on you adjust the strategy depending on what has been achieved so far. Maybe when it has been formulated, it has been more theoretical rather than practical, but when we go to the reality, things differ.
Yes.
The other aspect is that local development strategy is a multi-stakeholder document paper, which means that in one way or another, different stakeholders pressure you to reach the objectives mentioned there. So I never have seen a local development strategy being completely failed in reality, because the pressure is from different angles and also it's very dynamic.
Yes, that's what I was saying about this broad constituency of stakeholders. So that
I just have some other tools which are
also optimistic in the sense that we all talk that strategies fails, no transparency, corruption, etc. So my question would be how to make people see and believe and that in reality it indeed would happen, that with the reporting, the strategy creation process and transparency in all the process wouldn't be seen by people as just like, okay, these politicians, they don't have what to do, so they keep on writing the reports that nobody reads. And how to make these reports more citizens-friendly. And what, in my opinion, would help to ensure, continuity of the all strategy implementation and the goals, what they promise, would be achieved.
This is what your colleague from Poland was telling about sitting with the mayor and looking, look, you promised this and this and this. This is very understandable.
But if the community doesn't go, like, they don't, most of the times, as somebody mentioned, they go, there is a meeting, and then some people see that people as like, gods are up there, and they keep on eating, drinking, what you mentioned?
Because you can't really understand the language.
Yeah, there's that language and communication problem gap.
It's a long-term work on developing this skill of the citizens to ask the right questions and to be active and to request the reply.
How was in our case? Actually, I was the person who was coordinating the discussion. And especially during the first meeting, people were afraid asking questions because they were afraid of the mayor, because they knew each other, everybody is. So actually, the person who actually started all of this idea, she just prepared me some questions. And she asked me to ask. If people don't ask this, then please ask the mayor about these specific issues, because that's very important for us, but people will not ask about it. And actually it really worked, because mostly, especially during the first meeting, people were quiet. They didn't ask questions. So then I started some questions, and then the discussion started, because they felt that somebody else asked the question that they were actually interested. So sometimes there is a person from outside who is not afraid of the mayor, and who can actually ask all of the questions that the community is interested in. So, and then in this case, for example, it was just one person in this small city or small town who actually started this. And that was just, so it was very she got some very limited finance support from one organization. So actually it's a very cheap project and it can
give a good result.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, I'm sorry, sometimes people they think, okay, until I wait that these officials will do something for me, I'll find my own solution, which is actually a short-term solution for your personal problems that actually affects many, and many people have the same problems.
In the case of vulnerable communities, for example, Roma, you have the so-called community mediators, which is a local government structure and bridge the community to the local government. So you can also use this to bring their voice to the local government.
Okay, I think the time is up. If nothing else, at least try to remember that for the sustainability of development, it is important to have a broad constituency of stakeholders involved, including the citizens. If nothing else, you will remember from the lecture, at least try to remember this. With this, enjoy your lunch. Let's be back at 2 o'clock, right?
Yes.